In the last video, we calculated the customer churn rate, and we also plotted the trend line for the churn rate. So if you've not seen that video, you should check the last video. You should see a link in the description. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is to calculate the number of lost customers, retained customers, and customers that the company was able to resurrect, right, after a period of time. This could be customers that were inactive for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But for the purpose of this analysis, we're just going to focus on 1 month only. That way, we see customers that have been inactive for a while. That means the customers were not active last month, but they are active this month. So we call them resurrected customers. So let's get started. So let's calculate the number of lost customers. So we add a new measure and call it lost customers. So these are customers that were active last month, but were not active this month. So we want a means to see customers that were active last month. So we say customers. Let's start with customers this month. That's the current month. It's equal to. We don't need to do much. So we have to use as values and fact sales customer ID. So if we should drop this on a table, for example, it's just going to give us the customers for the current month by the time we count the values and test it out. So up next, we want to see the customers that were active last month. It's almost the same thing, but a bit different. So we use calculated tables to modify the filter context, right? So here we have values and fact sales customer ID, but now we want to make sure that we only get customers that were active last month. So we use the date start of month, and now it's going to give us for the previous month. So we have customers this month and customers last month. So if we want to see customers that were lost, it means the customer was active last month, but the customer is not active this month. So we can get the ID of those customers by doing this lost customers equal to. Now we use the except function. So here it says the except function returns the rows of the left side table which do not appear in the right side table. In this instance, customers last month will be our left side. Customers last month will be our left side table, and customers this month will be our right side table. So whenever it checks and it sees values that were present in that table and not present in this table, is going to give us the records that we want to see. So for except, we say customers last month. Just check customers last month and tell us the customers that were inactive this month. That's basically what we're doing here. So no, we don't want to return the list. We actually want to count the values. So we return and we count rows. We just want to count the rows for lost customers. So this is going to give us the number of customers that were lost for each month. So your own case may be different. It could be you want to calculate for 3 months, 4 months. So this is where you're going to modify this. You won't use previous month. You will use something like date add. So you use date add and you modify it by 3, 4, 5 months, or you can use a range of period for maybe if it's within the last 2, 3, 4, 5 months, then you calculate your period. So let's go ahead. Let's add a new page and see what this looks like. Let's duplicate this, take out this visual and call this lost customers. We can now drop that here and Let's find a nice visual. Let's use this for example, and let's add the start of month, and let's convert this to, we want to see just the date. And now we see the number of lost customers for each month. We can choose to use something like this here. Something like this is fine. So you have lost customers by start of month, or you can just rename this to month, or you can say by month here, and that will still be fine. We can just call it lost customers for each month. Then we can format this by adding a comma to make the values more readable. So this is our lost customers. It's actually simple and straightforward. So up next, we want to calculate retained customers. That is customers that were active last month and still active this month. Let's do that. The concept and idea is basically the same with just a few differences. I think just a slight change and you get almost the same result. Let's go to lost customers first and copy the formula we wrote there so we don't have to write everything from scratch. So we go to lost customers, copy the results, copy the formula rather, then add a new measure. We paste the formulas we've copied and we change this to retained customers. So this customers that was active this month, customers active last month, but this time around, instead of seeing customers that were active last month and not active this month, we want to see customers that were active in both months, right? Both the current month and the previous month. We want to know the number of customers that we've been able to retain. In that case, instead of using except, we use intersect. So it says, as you see here, intersect returns the rows of the left side table which appear in the right side table. So that's just basically what it does. It checks last month and this month, and it returns the rows that are present in both tables. That way we get customers that were active both last month and this month. Then all we have to rename this to retained customers. And that's a measure we would also want to reference here. Retained customers. Then click on OK. So we can just duplicate this visual, remove lost customers from the visual, and visualize retained customers. So these are the number of customers that we've been able to retain month after month. You can go ahead to do like the change, like the growth rate, right? Okay, have you been able to, number of customers you've been able to retain, is it growing, is it reducing? You see that there was a sharp decline here, and you see here there was a peak. I think this is the peak here. This is where we're 657, and here we have 622. So the peak was in November 2010. That's when we retained the highest number of customers, and there was growth from the start. Then there was a sharp decline. Then the number of retained customers started growing all over again. It's almost similar to the lost customers, but a bit different. So what we need to calculate next is the number of customers that we've been able to resurrect, right? That's, should we call it resurrected? We can call it resurrected customers or recovered customers. So these are customers that have used your service, who have bought something in the past but did not buy last month, for example. It's possible they've not bought in the last 2, 3, or 4 months, but now they are back to buy the product. So let's do that. So we have retained customers. You can copy part of the formula because we need part of it. Let's copy it all, then add a new measure. Paste this. So we want to call this let's call them, I think I said resurrected. You can also call them recovered customers, resurrected customers. So we have these values, but what we want to do is to make sure that these are customers that they they were active this month, but not active last month. That's one of the criteria, right? They may be active 4, 5, 6, or 7 months ago, but we want to make sure that they were not active last month. And one more thing, we have to make sure that they are not new customers. That's the way we know customers that were resurrected or recovered, because they were not active last month and they are not new customers because they've used our product or bought from our platform at least once in the past. So we can get our new customers here. So let's call this new customers. Is equal to calculated table. We want to use this to modify the context of the table. Values, customer facts, sales customer ID. But this time around, we want to filter for where I think we call it months since last transaction. Yes, months is, okay, months since first transaction is equal to 0. So if you follow the video from the start, you know that wherever we have fact sales month since first transaction equal to 0, it means this is the first month that the customer is using our service. This is the month the customer is buying our product for the very first time. So each of the customers that fall into these categories are new customers. That's how we calculated our new customers earlier. Then we counted the number of rows. So with that done, we want to do some simple modifications to this to get our resurrected customers. We want to make sure that the customers were active this month and not last month. You get the idea now. That means we're going to change the position of these two values, and we're also going to use the except function. So I'm taking this out. So resurrected customers, so we use except function. Here we want customers that are active this month but not active last month. So we can just come here and add a simple line that says remove last month's customers. That's the one. Then we also want to make sure that the customers we have left here by the time we've removed last month's customers, we also want to make sure that the customers are not new. So we do this one more time, except I'll just select this and adjust this to make the function more readable. Now we remember we have the result of customers that we have this result. Let me see. This result here gives us customers that were active this month but not last month. Now the result that we have, we want to go one more step and remove customers that are new. So we don't want new customers. So what we do here, we just go here and say new customers. So we can add a little note for ourselves, say remove new customers. And now we have a table that contains all the resurrected customers. So we just come to the last step and finally resurrected customers. We count the number of rows in that table, and that gives us the resurrected customers. So let's see what the result looks like. Let's remove the retained customers, and now let's visualize the resurrected customers. So this is the number of customers that were not active last month and are active this month. They are not new customers. It's possible they bought our product once in the past, 3, 4, 5, or 6 months ago, and this is what the trend looks like. So this is just a simple and basic step. The good thing about this is that if you add the number of retained customers, that's customers that are active the previous month, the number of resurrected customers, and finally the number of new customers, it should give you the total number of active customers for that month. Where is new customers? Let me visualize that so you see this. Remove resurrected customers, add new customers. So by the time you add 1, 2, 3, it's important that it tallies up the total number of active customers. Let's test that out and see. So I'm taking out lost customers for now. So let's convert this into a table. So we have new customers. We can now add retained customers, and we can add resurrected customers. So these are the different categories of customers that we have active for each month. Either the customer is new, the customer is the customer that was active last month, or a customer that bought our product once in the past but took a break and now the customer is back, right? So let's put the total number of active customers to this table. Now this is the total number of active customers that we have here. So we want to test that these measures are working fine, because it's very important that you validate your results before you share your reports with others, right? So what we can do is to sum up these different measures that we've created. So let's call it validation. We would want to we want to sum the number of new customers plus the number of retained customers, and finally the number of resurrected customers. So if we should sum these values up, it should be the same or equal to the number of active customers. Now, I would like to add it here, validation. So we see that the values are almost the same, but if you have a very big table, it's going to be very hard to see, right? So what we can do is to find the difference between these two. So we can just come here and say, okay, let's create a new measure for that. We're going to call the measure difference. So we call it difference. So it's going to be active customers minus validation. The expectation is that the result should be 0. So we see 0 throughout. So that means that our calculation was correct. All of our measures are working fine. So that's great. So each time you perform your analysis, I recommend you test it like we just did. So we can now remove the difference, the validation. We can also, let me see, remove the number of active customers. If you're interested in seeing percentages, for example, you just want to see the percentage composition, you can use this stacked percentage stacked column chart, and you have a result like this. You get to see which customers you have more in each month. For example, the first month, as expected, the number of you have 100% new customers. From the second month, you were able to retain 46% of the customers, but you still have new customers. But you see that the number of new customers keeps declining with time. Then you see the percentages also keep reducing for number of retained customers. Then with time we started having resurrected customers, right? These were customers that bought a product in the first month, which is December, but they didn't buy anything in January. But by February, we now have some of those customers back again. So they just make up 17% of our active customers. But you see that with time, the number of resurrected customers keeps increasing. The number of retained customers didn't change that much with just little spikes here and there. But you see that the number of new customers kept and keeps reducing. So this is one way you can visualize the data. You can put it out together in different formats. You have to format your visuals, format your dashboard so that the dashboard looks better. So in the next video that I'll be uploading, I'll be putting this all together on the dashboard. We have a lot of pages here that we have to go through one after the other. So all I have to do next is to put it together in one place where to just be a big dashboard that you can interact with and users can make sense of it. Then someone reached out with a request to create a video on weekly cohort. So when I have the time, maybe after the end of this and we've completed this project, we just add a bit to it. And it's almost the same thing. The only difference here is that instead of using the start of month in our calculations, we'll be using the start of week. Just get the start of week and use that to perform your calculations, and you achieve the same result. You won't have any issues. So thank you for watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you like the video, just give it a like. If you have questions or complaints or need clarification, just drop a comment and I'll definitely reply you, or you can link up with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. See you in the next video.